Welcome to True House Stories. I'm Lenny Fontana coming out of New York City, the North American New York City. And today, we're staying right in North America. And we're going to go up a little further north of New York, where house music found its ways, along with techno, EDM, and electronic music, inclusive of even back into the disco era. But what's really super cool is we're going to talk about a time in the 90s into the 2000s and beyond of what was going on in this area of the world. Toronto, Canada. I was blessed to go up there and DJ many times, had some super wicked clubs. And today we're going to be talking to a friend of ours. His name is Hatiras, George Hatiras. Through the 90s and into the 2000s, he was probably at every rave, every night. But before he became known as the DJ, record producer, he was doing smart drinks, okay? He's going to tell you about that because that's part of his upbringing into this whole electronic scene. Then became a massive promoter where he was having 4,000 to 5,000 people 4 to 5 times a year in Toronto, okay? So that doesn't make him anything smaller than a massive promoter. And then as we know on the timeline, he somehow gets with Bad Boy Bill and this massive record comes out. He's going to tell you that story too, which he's promoting now, which is now, I think about, 1999 was the release. We're into 2520. There he is, the man himself.
Yes.
In the flesh, in Toronto. I'm glad everything is going well for you. And, I was out of nowhere. Tool Room hits me up with their PR people. Yo, we got Hatiras. There's nothing to even think about bringing Hatiras on the show. This show doesn't only do legendary acts, it also does contemporary and beyond. And that's what I love about True House Stories. And I'm glad that you agreed to come on.
I'm basically a one-man show running my little Spacedisco Records empire. So I'm constantly, I do the artwork, I do the mastering, I do the A&R, I do the accounting. So I have and I throw the parties and I design the flyers. So I have I'm doing all that stuff right now. I'm planning the next few parties coming up. I have one in 2 weeks that I'm throwing, and then a big 9-year anniversary party at the end of August with our bro Angelo Ferreri playing at it, bringing him down from Italy. Yeah, just mastering. I got to master a couple of records today and deliver them. So it's nonstop. Yeah, it's crazy, nonstop. Don't expect respect, right? You need something done, you're gonna find some good people to work with, or try to do it yourself. But it's not easy, You see the glamorous side, but there's a lot of a lot of detail work, right? So yeah, it's tough. Yeah.
No, I know. That's why I like guys like yourself that are in it, deep in it, to explain it. This is a machine that needs to be continuously programmed, reset, done again every day. And when you lose that muster to do it,
crazy idea to go move to South Africa of all places, and we moved there, and it was very interesting. It was very actually pretty violent place. As soon as we got there, we had to kind of plan to get out of there. Actually, they had a little supermarket in the middle of nowhere there, and I didn't really have too much going on, but I had a Walkman and I had Michael Jackson's Thriller album, so I listened to that so many times, and then there's very limited media there, so I got a bit of Michael Jackson, a bit of Lionel Richie, then maybe a bit of Duran Duran. So I was that's where the seed of soulful stuff, funky stuff, disco based with electronic based, because Duran Duran, New Order, Depeche Mode, they were using keyboards, right? And so started this early fascination with music when I was just 9, 10 years old. And then we moved back to Toronto, and when I was 12, we lived in an apartment building, and right at the foot of it there was a little convenience store, and there was these really cool older teenage kids that would ride their skateboards, right? And one of them gave my sister a cassette tape, and I got that cassette tape, and it had all the early freestyle music on it, stuff Stevie B, Sweet Sensation, Noel, Information Society, you know what I'm talking about, right? And the thing that I loved about all that stuff was just it blew my mind, the electronic sounds, right? And I just became obsessed, and I was a purist at that age. I immediately found a couple of it was so hard to find, right? Obviously no internet then or anything, right? So I found a couple of radio shows. There was one on every Sunday in Toronto called Dave's Dance Music. And it was 2 hours, 4 to 6 p.m. every Sunday. And the guy played all the newest, hottest records, and the earliest house, and then the earliest techno, Magic Feet, Mike Dunn, or you know what I mean? All that stuff. And then as a 12, 13-year-old kid, my parents gifted me a double tape cassette recorder, and I would like record the show every week, like on the one cassette, right? And then during the week I would like splice, I could press pause and then record it on a new tape and then record the other bit. So it kind of was like a half-ass mix, I even remember like putting a microphone up to the TV and watching the Flintstones and being like, oh man, it's so cool. I can like record a piece of the Flintstones and put it on top, So that was my beginning with like obsessed with electronic music. And then, I discovered there was some like youth hall dances in Toronto for like young teenagers that I went to with my sister, and that's where I saw like there was DJs and they'd be spinning, and so that was where my original bug came from. But to be honest though, I didn't look at any of it and say, I want to be a DJ or I want to make music. I just enjoyed it. I loved it. I made my little mixtapes I'd given to my friends, but I wasn't planning to be a DJ, to be honest. Yeah.
So let's be honest. You're at the dinner table, Mom and Dad.
I remember when I was really young, my dad said to me, son, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was like, I must have been like 6. And I was like, I don't know, a clown? And he said to me, son, if you want to be the clown, you're going to be the best damn clown you can be, the best clown out there. So whatever you want to be, you do it proper, you do it serious, you do it the best. You don't mess around. You know what I'm saying? He's like, you want to be a clown, you want to be a juggler, you want to be some random thing, do it properly, be world class at it, But then on the other side, they're like, oh yes, you must be a doctor or a lawyer, you must be a doctor or a lawyer, So, that what ended up happening was like, I really had no idea, right? And I took kind of medical-y things in high school, and I even went to university for all that stuff. I studied biology, and I even finished the degrees and all that, but ready to go to medical school. But that's when I had a hit record and see y'all later, But like, that was the plan, but it was never in my heart, I was always like in university, I was always sitting there like writing down rave lineups and drawing designs for the rave poster that I was going to throw. So it's always been in my heart, this electronic music.
Okay, so you make the decision to go into the electronic.
Pretty young, probably like 16 or something. And, they tried to have like a little bit of a curfew, but whatever. I remember one time I went to this rave. It was actually at the CN Tower, at that tall tower in downtown Toronto. It was the one and only rave they ever had there. And I remember like there was a guy there selling smoothies, right? Like these smart drinks. What the hell is that, And I got his contact info. I remember coming home at 7 a.m. It was really funny because like I was wearing these baggy rave pants at the time, and as you walk around, they crinkle, make a big noise. So I remember I'm like, it's 7 a.m. I'm going to sneak in. I took my pants off and I wrapped them on my like arm and in my boxers, and I opened the door ready to like, sneak in all quiet. And my parents were like, where the hell were you, And I'm like, whatever, just whatever, fine, So they didn't guilt or bother me, but like, I needed to find an angle to get involved in the scene. And so there was a weekly rave party called Destiny Fridays every Friday in Toronto. And I remember going there and talking to the promoter. His name is Ryan Kruger. And I asked him, hey, can I help? Can I get involved? Is there something I can do here? He was like, yeah, you want to promote, hand out these flyers at your high school, right? Took the flyers and then handed them out for like a week. And I wasn't really interested in it, And I like asked him, I'm like, something else can I do? Can I like sell like water or like drinks or, I don't know, do a smart bar or something? He's like, yeah, if you do a smart bar, we could, sure, whatever. So he gave me the opportunity. So like I was in high school with my buddy, his name is Craig, and we decided to set up our little rave business called Liquid Adrenaline Smart Drinks, right? And we contacted this guy from Detroit who was working the smoothie bar at the CN Tower. And he sent us, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Can I just interrupt so that people understand, because we're in a different era now, what exactly?
Well, okay, so I was studying like in high school, I was studying all the relevant things to biology, right? Bio and physics and chemistry, all that stuff, right? And I was into health and nutrition. I like that stuff. And by chance, meeting this guy who had a smart bar at a rave in Toronto, right? I got his info. And then he agreed to allow us to set up at parties where he wasn't going to be. He had a monopoly on certain parties that he wanted to sell his smoothies at. And a smart bar is basically like, remember, Starbucks, Jamba Juice, that stuff didn't exist back then, right? And a lot of these raves were all ages as well, right? So the whole concept at the early days at these raves, there could be a smart bar where it would be some guy like myself and my buddy, we wore lab coats, and we would bring like 2 blenders and like a big black light, and we made a menu of drinks, and we stuck it on the like table there. And we had these like this powder, and it was like full legal. It was like stuff you would get from like a health food store now. So one of them had like a bunch of vitamin C and ginseng, or you know what I mean, or like things that like wake you up and give you energy, right? So we would like set up our lab coats and our banner and our thing at like this weekly Friday rave, and we were selling the smoothies, right? And then now my parents they couldn't say anything. I'm like, hey, Mom, Dad, no, I'm good. I'm going to work. You know, I'm not partying all night. Although I was there kind of partying all night. Like I was dancing, but I was behind the bar, and I was there from open to close, right? Every Friday. And very quickly, after doing it for like a month, all the promoters in town like liked what we were doing, right? And they would like leave their flyers on our little booth, and we'd be like, hey, do you want us to set this up at your party, right? And they were all like, yeah, bring it, you know, sure. And so like I was lugging my little Chevrolet Cavalier with like my coolers and my blenders and my black lights and my banners and my signs and my cash box and the whole thing. And I would set that up at like every Friday, Saturday, even some Wednesday raves. And if it was summer, and probably the guy who attended the most man hours of the Toronto rave scene from like the 90s over like everyone, guaranteed, because like I was literally at every party from door open to door close, right? Yeah.
And that's what I wanted you to explain that to people, because
there was a smart bar there. Yeah, it was more like it wasn't as much blended as much. It was more like fruit things, but like I was like, good for you. You know, personally, I think that there should be smart bars at these bars. I don't really personally like booze, you know what I mean? Like I'm not a big drinker. But if I could go to a party, or even if someone drinks a bunch and then they can buy like a cocktail that's like alcohol free but like really nutritious and replenishing, you know, like I don't know why no one's really jumped on that. Maybe it's because Jamba Juice and Starbucks are the thing now, but like it's a really smart idea to give people that option. By being at every rave like that, like just through osmosis, I heard, you know, 10 hours of rave music every, like, you know, on a Friday and a Saturday. So like I heard all the music. Being at every party, I fully understood how the party works. I saw the security rolling up. I saw the sound and light guy wheeling up, setting up his stuff. I saw the door staff, the wristbands, the barricades, the porta potties. I like learned the entire scene just by being there. You know what I mean? And then just by being there, I understood what worked the crowd, and I noticed like, oh yeah, they love that. They love the build-up, you know? They freak out every time there's a big build-up. And build-ups weren't that common. Now every song has a build-up, but then songs didn't have build-ups, right? It was like rare that songs, like Josh Wink was one of the first guys who like made every song like an epic build-up, right? You know what I mean? But like, yeah, being at these parties, I became intimately aware of how they worked, and I naturally created a huge connection with like people, because they would see me at every party. That'd be super cool, hang out with them there. Sometimes I'd take their jackets and put them behind me and under my table and kind of be like a coat check vibe. But like, that's how I really like, you know, earned my hours in the rave scene, I'd say, right? Yeah.
Well, they always said to really understand any business, start from the bottom. And you really got in there at the bottom part of it, not musically speaking, but went into a different direction. A lot of guys come in as DJs, warm up.
Exactly. And I was never in any position where, like, in any way, my parents offered things like any kind of financial support or anything like that. I was kind of like the hardworking hustler teenager then, right? And I like, you know, made enough money doing that I bought my car, paid for university, right? So, and I was at some of these big parties with 2,000-3,000 people, and like, you know, then it got bigger, and I would have like 2, 3, 4 friends helping. So I was like my little boss of the concession rave world, right? We even sold glow sticks sometimes, or like cassette tapes, right? The mix tapes. But yeah, really, it was just doing that where I completely learned how the scene works. And after doing that for a couple of years, a buddy of mine was like, hey, I got this church. It's available for rent. Literally a church, the hall in the basement. It was a Ukrainian church. And he's like, they're looking to do some stuff. Why don't you like do something? And then I remember meeting with the priest at the church and agreeing to pay rent to use the basement. And I planned my first rave. But Another little side note, my dad was in the printing business at the time, right? So I would bring home these flyers and he would like scoff at them all. He'd be like, why are these, they're so crap, they're so trash, you know? He's like, why, they're terrible. If you're going to do a party, do like a good flyer, you know? Do it on like thick paper, like laminated, go above and beyond, right? So he, you know, using that guidance that he gave me, we kind of spent a fortune on our flyers, you know?
That was my next thing.
Yeah.
I know the
Yeah,
flyer
yeah.
war.
I have some of them
To
here.
make
Like
those
here's one of them,
flyers
you know?
are not cheap
See?
with the 4 colors and laminate.
Pretty cool. Yeah. 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 And then here's another one. Little graffiti can. Cool, right? 1997. See that? Yeah. Fred Everything's on this one. Oh yeah, these cost this. But like, you know what? Yeah, you know what? I was very brave at the time. I was fearless in my 20s. There was no doubt, no hesitation. So I was kind of fearless at the time. And I remember the first party, that first party cost like 12 grand back in 1995, you know? Yeah. Which was a fortune at the time.
No, I hear you. And that's the thing, you know, it's like, what do? You know, you got to get 12,000. You're not thinking about losing.
Exactly. And, you know, hey guys, look, we're going to do a party. It's Sunday, long weekend. Got this church basement, you know? And they're like, oh, that's cute. You'll probably get 100 people. No one thought we would pull it off, right? And that first party, we got 650 people. Yeah.
But what did that take to get those people there? Because there was no social media back then.
Right?
And
so I had my bar set up. I sprayed the flyers all over the table. I'd go stand outside. And the gimmick that like I thought of was made this flyer like with a little hole punch, and I put a string on it. And I like literally personally like put it on people's heads when they walked in, and they all like thought it was a VIP, right? So everyone's walking around with like a flyer hanging on their neck, you know? And they all like loved the design so much that they would collect them, right? And I'd personally go out, take a break in the middle of the night and personally go out to every car in the parking lot and put a flyer on every car, would personally go to all the record shops that there's probably a handful of relevant rave record shops in the city at the time, and I would personally go there midweek, drop a stack of flyers there. So it was all the grunt work. I did all of it. And it's funny, I remember 5 years into throwing the raves, I did some parties with like 6,000, 10,000 people. I still did the flyer handing. I'll never forget. It was funny. One time it was the middle of winter and I was outside of a party and I was putting flyers on these cars, you know? And I already had 6,000 people. I was already making decent cash doing it. And I remember some guy going, hey, you bum, get out of here. Go get a real job, you know?
He should only know how real your job really was.
It is, yeah. And you know what?
Idiot.
No matter how high, how low, you stay humble, you get the job done. That's the point, you know?
So when you're now an aficionado promoter.
So when I did my parties, I wanted to have like a room for each. So I'd have like the drum and bass, jungle room, sprinkle in some breaks, and then the other room was like house, deep house, the techno, right? And I never intended to be on the stage. I still am like a bit of a hermit and a shy guy. I'm not like someone who really wants attention or anything like that. And like I wanted to just kind of host the parties, so I created a name for myself. I called myself MC Shadow. And I just kind of hid in the shadow when, you know, the DJ's going on, and a couple times it was just like, hey, welcome to the party, everyone. I would even put on the fake British junglist MC voice sometimes. It was select a whistle crew, you know, that whole thing, you know. But like I didn't intend to be on the stage. I was happy in the back, coordinating everything, doing the lineup, hiring everyone, running the whole thing. The most exciting thing to me was always the flyer, you know, that visual element, right? And I'd hear these drum and bass guys that would come in, and they always would have dub plates, right? They would like have like a VIP edit of their song, you know, they would rewind it and then like have a new version of it, or they'd have like a shout out on the dub plate. And it was like so damn cool to me. Like the drum and bass guys would do that. They'd have these like custom versions of their songs, right? So I remember I wanted to just do that, to create a custom dub plate for my raves. So one of the drum and bass DJs that I worked with, like he had a little studio with an EMU 6400 sampler and stuff. And I remember I set up a little session with him, and I went there and I recorded myself saying, you know, welcome to Liquid Adrenaline, or a few shout outs, right? And like we pitched it down, and then we created a little like shout out thing. And I took it to like one of these lacquer places and paid $100, and they like made you know, because remember, there was no MP3, no CD. You know, you're well aware of all this, right? And like, it was like such a novelty to be able to play something that like shouted out your crew, right? Like, yeah, let's go try and make a track, right? So remember, we like took 2 or 3 records, and we like, one of them we like mathematically copied the arrangement of a song. We're like, okay, 16 beats, and then the hi-hat comes in, and the next 16 the clap, and then 4 16s, then you get the breakdown and the snare roll. And we like did a mishmash of, we created something, this guy produced it for us, with us, right? And I like fell in love. I was like, I got to do this, man. This is sick, you know? So, you know, within a couple of buddies, we decided to pool some money together and to buy some studio equipment. And so we bought like an EMU sampler. I still have the sampler here, actually. ESI 4000 sampler, right? And a Roland MC303 little drum machine module, because that had like sounds and drums, right? And then I bought like a Mackie mixing desk, and then a little freestanding Atari that had Cubase, that had like a MIDI in the back that you could plug into the sampler, right? And then a DAT machine to tape, to record, right? And so like the idea was that we were all going to share the equipment, and that we would all like have it for like a month each, right? And, you know, I had it for a month, and I went hard. I spent every minute on the stuff. Then the other guy had it, he did nothing. And the other guy had it, he did nothing. The other guy, and so then when it was my turn again, I put effort into it, and they weren't interested. So it ended up like, fine, I'll buy the stuff, you know? So I ended up like owning this sampler and a mixing desk, you know? Yeah.
And that's the thing. There was a major financial commitment you had to make this happen.
Yeah. The sampler alone was like $3,000, and the mixer was probably $1,000. The DAT was $1,000. The little drum machine was probably $500 or whatever. So, and then that was a lot of money, right? Like if you like compare it to today, the inflation or whatever, it'd probably be like 10 times more, you know? But yeah, I was hooked, right? And I immediately, and remember, I didn't know music theory. I didn't want to be a DJ. I played with vinyl. I collected vinyl as a hobby. I would buy everything that like Green Velvet released on like Relief Records back in the day, you know? I just loved that label. But yeah, I wasn't planning to, I just wanted to just make the music, right? And I quickly came up with like a bunch of tunes and made a little album and took it to some place nearby and got some guy to master it, and like made a CD, right? And then I had like my first album, right? It was like immediately the first 6 songs I made were like an album, you know? And I would like kind of sell them at my smoothie bar. Okay, kick drum, right? Hi-hat, clap, obviously. And then what I would do is there was a record store in Toronto. They sold like throwaway records that nobody wanted. It was like just the crap that no one bought, right? And like you couldn't even listen to it. You walked in and it was like they were all wrapped, right? And you could buy them for like $3, but you couldn't listen to it. It was like final sale, you know? So I went in and I like picked through anything that said disco on it, or anything that was like, you know, mainly things that said disco on it, right? And to backtrack a little bit though, I was very heavily influenced by like, you know, that sound. I was promoting it. I was aware, I knew the sound, right? Like I would like hire Bad Boy Bill to some of my parties, or Derek Carter. I'd go to the parties where DJ Sneak was playing, and Heather and everyone. And like, you know, I remember there was a club in Toronto called Industry. I went there when Thomas Bangalter of Daft Punk was there, tag team DJing with DJ Sneak. And I actually remember it was, I walked up to Thomas Bangalter of Daft Punk, was in the corner with his little leather jacket, a skinny dude, all quiet with shaggy hair. And I remember walking up to him and being like, hey, you're Daft Punk? He's like, and his French accent, he's like, yes. And he was so shy, so humble, so sweet, so talented. And that moment, I could do this, because you don't have to be a loud, obnoxious personality to be an artist. You can be that chill, introverted guy and make cool art, you know? And so like, it was that meeting where it was like, okay, you know what? Like that inspired me a lot, you know? And it was right after that time where I like got the equipment and fiddled around, and all I was trying to do was kind of make that kind of Roulette Records kind of sound, right? Or that Chicago filtered sound. And that sound really is about like, you know, 909 drums, and then finding a sample, chopping it up in the sampler, looping it, filtering it, right? You know, continuing from this whole thought process, like when I would go to this record store where they had all the used vinyls that didn't sell, I would buy them, bring them home, but I never, and I still, I did not listen to them. I did not want to know who made it. I did not want to know anything. I only wanted to blindly put the needle on the record. Is this a cool second? No. Lift it up. Is this a cool? No. Is this cool? No. Is this cool? And I was gold mining for that, like that moment, because if I knew the song, it would ruin the process of trying to acquire something textural from the record. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want, exactly. Golden nugget is what I would call it. A gold mine, Boom.
It's
That's
finding that golden nugget.
Four beat, whatever. And that's all I wanted to like, and I still use that process too. It's a lot easier to make music when you're starting with something textural like that. And eventually you may remove it fully, but doing that helps spark things,
It's like having a sketch, and you're an artist, and you have a sketch, or maybe something that you'll muse to look at and go, you know what? I see this from it. If I take this one color, I can make everything else happen in the one color, and that's what I say. And then you have this whole beautiful production, or piece of garbage. Not everything is great that we all do. It would be funny if I did every record.
Don't force your idea on the song. Let the song make itself through you. That's the best stuff, because when it just flows through and you let it be, you're not saying, oh, it has to be this way or that way. Just let the vibe flow through, and it's good or it's not. And if it's cool, just keep building on it and have fun with it. That's really where the best stuff comes from, because I could technically sit down and say, I'm going to try to make this or that kind of song, but I don't know. It might not be good,
So you get a chance, I guess, now that you're honing in and doing all this stuff and promoting, and at the same time making records.
I felt unstoppable. I felt like I was doing these parties. A bunch of people were coming out. They were successful. I was in control. I was the boss of the party. I was hiring the guys, and I was on the stage there. And in the morning, I felt so rewarded when everyone was still there at 7 a.m. And, like I said, I made that demo album, right? And I believe a buddy of mine gave it to Bad Boy Bill. And Bill hit me up and was like, hey, I love this. Can we sign these songs? They're great. I love them. And I remember telling him, no, I really don't want to use those. Let me make some new stuff for you. I'm way better now. Forget those old crap songs, So then I sat in the studio, did my thing, and I made a first kind of 3-track EP. And he signed it to IHR, his label out of Chicago at the time. And, even rewinding though, I have relatives in Chicago. So when I was a teenager, we would sometimes drive out there to spend the week with them or whatever. And I remember when I'd go out there, I would hear the radio and I would hear all this B90s or Jumping Julian Perez or this old house or rave music. So that all fed my brain, I had that influence, So anyway, that first EP was released on IHR and it did well. People liked it, They definitely paid a good guy to master the stuff, makes a difference, good mastering, right? But but it was all me. No one helped. No one told me. No one guided anything. There was never any teacher to nothing like that. Everything was instinct. And I didn't know music theory. I didn't know what a chord was. I didn't know what a key signature, scale. None of that. No, I just knew raw, nasty 909 beat, nugget of sample, horn, stabs, loop it, filter it, make it build up, drop it heavy, loop it, tracky stuff.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing now. You're hearing this out. The filtering, for example. So how the hell do you have no one to show you anything?
I was studying biology at the time. No.
It has nothing to do with being smart. It's
anything I bought, either
you're reading books or you're...
Even now, though, I'm addicted to buying gear. I want it all. And before I buy the stuff now, even, I actually, read the whole damn manual before I even get the piece of equipment, I'm that kind of guy, So, I remember, when I bought a Roland MC 505, I had the 303 and I read that whole manual, right? And then I bought the 505 and, in it, Roland had the book and they explained, this is attack, decay, sustain, release. You can apply a filter to it. And then even the manual for the sampler, it explained the principles of ADSR, high pass, low pass, cutoff, frequency, LFO, all that stuff, right? And then all that stuff is very physics related, So I was studying I did take physics too in school. So it all was like, okay, I actively absorbed and read the manuals and made sure I understood it, and then applied those techniques to all the memories and inspiration that I got from being at all these raves, right? So
Yeah, because most people can't read that manual and understand how to apply that to the actual piece.
I think I'm made for that stuff. And I also think that, like, in a weird way, like, maybe some of it's like comes from another place. Like, I always thought in a weird way that, like, the reason I called the song Spaced Invader was like, my intention was like, the guy is spaced, he's a little bit spacey, but he's invading the scene left field with like something new and fresh from a cosmic source. You know what I mean?
But we now have a new appreciation for you, George, because I knew nothing of this back end. And I'll tell you another artist that has
Yeah,
a
that's
back
cool.
end like you, who's ultra smart, same way, Ultra Nate. She was on her way to become a doctor. And that right turn, because of her voice, turned out to make her go a different way.
Some people do things, you know, like if there's like a homework, they do their homework and then they like, you know, finish the assignment in a timely manner. Others would just crash course the whole thing like 2 days before or a day before. I was the day before guy, you know. I wouldn't do any homework, but like the day before the exam or whatever it was, I would like go hard. Like I would, you know, have coffees on the go and go really deep and hard. And that exact same kind of like focus, concentration is what it takes. And that completion is what it takes to make a song. You have to like go in and like, you know, my brain hurts after making half these songs. You know what I mean? Because you're going in so meticulous, every little damn thing, you know? So it's like, I guess that those studies did develop my brain that way. And I remember like thinking like all the science stuff developed like the left side of the brain, right? And then like the right side, the creative side, was so hungry and starved that I needed to like balance it out, you know? So the music stuff was like kind of balancing out that stuff, which, to be honest, I hated that stuff. I did not like anything about bio or chem or any of that. I hated it. Well, not brilliant, but like sharp, you know, at the time, you know?
But it made you brilliant. It made you brilliant enough to figure out at a time when there was no hands-on training, like there was nobody around to sit you down and say, do it like this, do that. Or you were understudying like a lot of New York guys did, work with other producers in the studio and the back end, and they were learning as they went.
It was the third EP that had Space Invader on it. And I remember like, I would always, and I still always, when I make any kind of song, I want to challenge myself, or I want to break some rule or try something. I never use the same formula. I always want to like excite myself somehow. And I remember like that specific song, like when I finished it, I played it to a friend and he's like, I'm like, what do you think? What do you think? Playing in the car, you know, song's sick, but that riser noise, that so annoying. Get rid of that, you know? And I was like, that's the point of the song. That sore thumb of a sound. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting you say that riser sound, because that riser sound was part of the, not all of it.
Exactly.
But it was a big piece of the rave scene, more than the house scene. So I can see
he actually was more into the like the jungle side of things, you know.
Was your friend into the house side, or was he into raving?
Yeah.
So they didn't even hear that at all in the jungle side. Like that wasn't a thing. I remember that rave sound. I remember hearing that type of sound being prominent, not all the time. Now it's like all the time. Back then it was a little bit here, maybe one, like you said, higher state of consciousness would have had it.
Get back to like the original concept is to break the rules, right? So like you know, I like it when songs like do something just even the tiniest thing different, you know? I don't know.
Here's something now I want to ask you though. You know, today it's a drag and drop mentality. You know, the loops are all there. Everything's de facto and ready to go. But when you were sitting down making these albums around the time you did Space Invader, there was no preset loops for you to take.
You could go into the bookstore and they would come out once a month, these magazines from the UK, and they had a CD stuck to the front. Remember that? And then like you get the CD and then you take it home and then it would have like a small sample pack of like a few kick drums or whatever, right? You know, so that was definitely a source. Although I could ramble for hours, and I got to give also credit to, there was a buddy of mine who was a really good, he was a good buddy of mine. He was a really good musician and he played bass guitar really well, you know? So I would like bring him in on certain tracks and be like, hey, get in here, you know? He'd play like a funky bass line for me. So like he definitely like influenced, he taught me a few things for sure. His name is Jason. He's actually, he's still a incredible producer. He makes music for like movies and stuff right now, you know? But like he was one guy that, you know, I learned some stuff from. But at the beginning, there was no one. It was just making things up and sampling things and having fun, you know, and feeling it more than anything. I remember playing it, and when that wind up hit, the whole room just kind of stopped. And it was like a holy, what the hell? You know what I mean? Like, and my friends ran up to me and they're like, what the hell was that? You know, because it was so obnoxiously different, right? So like I figured it would like do something in the rave scene, but like I didn't think like a year later I'd be like driving around with the whole Defected team, seeing like posters with my name on it and like along the highway in London and doing the music videos and interviews and all that stuff. I didn't expect that. No, not at all. No, he's all supportive and he's like, send me more stuff. Let's hear more stuff, you know? And then they, you know, they'd have me in a hotel like, hey, we have you doing, they call them phoners, right? So like they'd be like 20 phone calls that day and I'd have to wait and do these interviews and they'd put them in all the magazines and stuff and running around the radio. And I won't name the employee and they're no longer there, but I will never forget one of the people who worked at the label was in one of those black London cabs with me. And she said to me, George, enjoy this while you can. You're the flavor of the moment. Next year, it'll all be gone. So enjoy it while you can. Can you imagine? You know what? Thank you, because that statement, there's certain things in your life that happen.
25 years later?
Certain moments that... Like,
I understand what she meant.
Yeah.
I understand what she meant because it was a novelty type of record that went on top of the pops. You guys did top of the pops, right? And those records... Okay. No pun intended to what you do. It's not like it's the Rolling Stones' new single. You know, it's
I took it as a little bit of a...
We work hard for it. But
there was a little job, but it was a good job. That was one of the jobs that stuck, and I'm happy she said that, you know? But it was a very, very big record, and I did not expect that. And I was getting like suddenly like really big like offers to remix Kylie Minogue and this guy and that Sony and this Universal and all this stuff. Yeah.
So wait a second. Whoa. You're now getting offered to get all these vocals and stuff. You have no musical training. Where do you start with that?
Hey, it's off key, eh? It's kind of off key. And I was like, oh, yeah? What? He's like, you got to tune it like a semitone down. As soon as I heard that, then I learned, you know, I was like, okay, I need to learn what that means, right? You know, but like, it's funny though, because even with the Kylie Minogue remix I did, I remember asking her, like, I sent two versions, one with the full vocal and one that was just like a 2-beat loopy filtered thing. And they didn't want me to do vocal rap. They just wanted that raw sound from me. They didn't want me to be suddenly some brilliant vocal production guy. They wanted that tapped into the rave sound guy, you know, loopy, weird, filtered, fun, hanging, you know? Oh, yeah.
I know. Then, you know, what happens is, you know, you're in the middle, they call a rock and a hard place because you had to learn. Because you're forced into it. The money's there.
Yeah. The rewind, though, when I was a kid, my parents did enroll me for a year of like piano classes. So I did have that all rooted in. Like, you know, I did do a little bit of piano and I did play saxophone in high school. So like instinctually, that's all there, right? And then I did have that one buddy who was like musically ridiculous, like can play guitar, keys, you know, so like if I needed to, I could, you know, ask him to perform as a session guy, a few bits here and there. But like, I did definitely guilt myself. I felt really bad. I felt like there was a mountain in front of me. I was like, oh man, music theory is this crazy, scary thing. I don't know it. Like, what am I going to do? And I put it off for many years. And then I just finally was like, dove in, and it's not that hard, you know? And I learned it, whatever. I can't play, but I know all the rules. Yeah, I know all that, you know? It's fine.
You know where everything needs to be.
I have like 1 million cassette tapes. Like all that was in. The thing that isn't in, the thing that I hated was like normal music. I would always tell my friends, I'm like, any song can be ranked from 1 to 10, but if it's like electronic music, it can go up to 20. But like if it's rock or hip hop or pop or anything else, it cannot pass 10. It just doesn't do that for me. You know? Only electronic rave music is the thing that does it for me. You know, when I was like such a purist, you know, I'd be like getting in the car and trying to get everyone to shut up to listen to the tape, the like drum and bass or the UKG or the techno or the filtered house or the, you know, like fully deep in that, like defined by that stuff, you know?
And that's why you're here today. And you're not going to go anywhere. You're going to keep doing what you do.
Yeah.
Making these great tracks. Because I get a lot of them, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, I get a lot of his stuff releasing like non-stop. Yeah. It's like magical. It's like bam, bam, bam. It's like, wow. You know, the sad part is with today's way, it has nothing to do with what you're doing.
They do.
Else's.
They do.
A lot of great records that need time to develop, they get lost because...
Totally. I'm all about it. And I'm swam so far off the dock now into who knows what's that way that there's no turning back. That it's like, that's what I'm doing. That's what I've made it this far. I'm going to just keep going and keep releasing. And like, it's not just about me, what I do, right? Like my whole thing is like, I want to build a team, bring people together. So I throw the parties. I still throw parties all the time. They're not as big as they were back then, but they can get big again. They just got corporate money came in and kind of ruined things for the independent guy. But like with my label, I'm like, whole other show. I could talk 10 shows. Yeah.
That's a whole other show.
Yeah.
Because I know that show too. We all know what happened when that money came to Beatport. That changed everything. But I hear what you're saying. It can come back. And what you're doing is more of the homegrown, keeping it real, you know, because we are watching you. You are making noise up in Toronto.
I don't know. To reduce, I have a new version of Space Invader. What do you think about signing that? But it's a little complicated, you know? And then he's like, nah, mate, make a new one. Really? Okay. So then I went in the studio and I really dug deep and made a song inspired by the vibe of Space Invader, which was a perpetually rising tension and release song with the fast raga vocal type thing on it. And it's completely unrelated. It's called Hypnotized. There's no relationship to Space Invader. This is a completely new song called Hypnotized. It just has the vibe of Space Invader. And Tool Room picked it up. Mark loved it. And now, like, yeah, every day I got like a video of like Solomon playing it and Maupi and Low Steppa and everyone's playing it. It's crazy. So it feels like the same energy and excitement and impact. It's like Space Invader 2.0, but it isn't Space Invader. It's called Hypnotized. Yeah. I don't want to rely on the legacy of that to define me as a one-hit guy. So that's why this new song is like, no, I'm not, you know, but that was the mega one. But like, anyway, like, yeah. In fact, I am planning
but
to.
You're not a one-hit guy.
And I have released, in 2010, I released like a dozen remixes of it back then. So, you know, I got bored of it though, right? And then like, but I do have a new hot remix by a guy in France there. You'll see it. It'll come out in October. It's pretty banging, you know? But like, yeah, I have the ability to work the record and I have the rights. It's all good. But a lot more, just warming up.
So everyone keep your eyes on Hatiras.
No,
He's got more to say. It's not even close to calling it yet. He's like getting the engine fired up on all cylinders to go further and further. We must congratulate you on this journey. It's a long journey. This is what it takes to stay in something, especially with an everlasting and ever-changing business. The thing is that, do you like the difference or appreciate the difference from the analog business, which is the actual vinyl?
I prefer it now. You know why? Because there's no excuse. There's no one in the way. If I want to make a song tomorrow and I put my heart and soul into it, and then I want to self-release it, there's no obstacle. Before, there were so many obstacles and things moved so slowly. Now, the good thing about moving things so slowly back then was, geez, you didn't feel like this sense of being overwhelmed, you know? Like I could make a record and then I'd, 2 days later, I'd go to FedEx and mail out the DAT tape, and a month later, we'd get the master, and then next month, we'd get the white labels. So it was a lot more slow-paced and didn't feel like my brain was going to explode, but now, like, things are moving so fast. It's like every day some new thing, new song, new this, new that. It's like definitely like it hurts the brain. It's overwhelming now. It's too much, But on the other side, like there's no obstacles. So I really, if I had to choose, I choose today because you're the master of your destiny now. You can do something, get it out there. And if it sucks and no one cares, who cares? Or if only 20 people like it, or maybe people discover it 10 years later, but like there's no barrier to entry, so it's all on you now. So I love that, you know?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You heard it from the man himself.
Yeah.
He loves today. Get it today. Get Space Disco. Follow him. Watch his gigs.
I gotta really give a massive love to Mark Knight and that whole team, and I have nothing but the most love and respect for the way he handles everything. They have passion, but he's the coolest dude who knows how to party, have fun, play the cool beats, but then he gets to work and does the job. Like he's like a role model. I love that, you know? He's like I don't know, they work hard, you know? And big love to you for laying the foundation, because like you've been doing it longer than me, and I look at your discography. I need to interview you, never mind, you know? I want to hear your whole story, because give me a 30-second history. Tell me something about the beginnings, 54, something. I want to hear like a funny memory, you know? Because like, if it wasn't for you guys, like I wouldn't be here, you know?
30 seconds like this. Bear Jones telling
Really?
me to take the house music anthem because he doesn't want me to play black shit in the club. And that was at Underground. And I got fired that night. And I told Marshall that story, and we laugh about it every time. I had the record, one of the first to get it, and I played
Really?
it.
So that was that like one of those
times that night. The crowd went crazy, and he came in the booth and he fired me right then and there.
See, that's one of those moments we're talking about, right? If that pain never happened, that opened that entire door otherwise, right? Yeah. Work it to the bone.
And I have to thank Rick Lenore from LNR. Rick Lenore, who did Work It to the Bone, for showing me the way and putting out one of my first records. So that's why you talk about Chicago. I got such deep roots to Chicago. Carl Bias and all them come, Master C and J. I used to carry the keyboard into Paradise Garage when Liz Torres was performing. So there was a lot of things going on in my life at that time. So I understand the pain when you're talking about, and I remember seeing them with the keyboards going, man, I could do this. I got musical training, but I don't know what the hell, where to begin.
Yeah.
And you just jump in, you dive in, not knowing, and the rest is history. You go, I'm going to make this happen somehow, some way. And the first projects you do, yes, they stink, but you think they're great, and it's okay. That's what makes it great, right? And when you get into it, and you keep going, you look back and you go, if I didn't.
You know, it's funny though, but also there may be great and then bad, right? It's not always the
great.
Exactly. I started at the top and I slid down to have to like fight my way. Because, you know, third record in, mega hit, and everyone wants a piece. And it actually there was a point where like it was so overwhelming, the touring, the everything that was going on, that it like got me like really sick, you know? Like I was actually like, you know, like I got kind of paralyzed actually, to be honest, you know? It was messed up, you know? So there was like I had to take like 8 months off right at the peak of my thing to reset everything.
Okay. So wait. So explain that part of what happened there at the peak.
And I'm like in Belgium, I'm in Germany, I'm in Australia, I'm in Japan, I'm all over the world. No sleep, no rest, and like offers everywhere, right? Yeah, and then the cops and the whole system here in Toronto made life really miserable for us promoters. They tried to put us out of business. We did everything legally. We got permits, we got insurance, we got barricades, we secured everything. But there was an agenda to crush us, you know? And they would then charge us like all this extra fees for throwing an event, like that it made it so we couldn't make money, you know? And so there was all this like crazy pressure that like, in the summer of like, I never told anyone this anyway, but summer of like 2001, like, something just happened and my body like kind of froze, you know? It was the weirdest thing ever. I don't know what it is, but it's like an autoimmune thing. And then it just makes you basically paralyzed, you know? So like, you know, I hit that. I was the peak of the king of the world. And then like months later, I was like hospitalized, eating out of a tube, you know, like not even a human anymore, you know? And I had to like, it was then that I died, really, that I fought for 8 months to fully come back. And I was determined then to like, you know, like now it was a new life, you know? And I didn't party. I wasn't a drinker, drug, none of that. It was none of that, for the record. It was literally the pressure of like no sleep, on a flight, on another flight, eating what you're eating. You know what I mean? Like that's so It can be.
That's the reason why I asked that question, because not everybody understands that lifestyle of going from city to city, continent to continent.
Even just the throwing the parties as well. It was like I was the cash cow guy who was so like yeah. No, it just was the weirdest thing ever. My body shut down, and then I had to be like hospitalized for like a month on a feeding tube, and then bedridden for like 6 months. Basically, it was like crazy. It was like a distant dream, but like in my mind, like the whole time I was like, I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna fight through, and I'm gonna regain. And then so it was literally being at the top of the thing to the bottom, and then saying that's not me, and fighting my way back. And then over the years I've probably had like 5 or 6 little peaks, right? Like every few years, like now I feel like I'm kind of peaking again right now, but maybe next year I won't be, but I'll bring it back, as an artist. That's why you hear like artists reinventing themselves or fading away from it and then coming back. But it's like it can really have a mental toll on you. Like it's very tough, right? You got to like be strong and like don't get too high, don't get too low. Just like move ahead, Yeah.
But it's not easy. It's not easy. You're inside the goldfish bowl, and sometimes you're floating around in your own goldfish bowl, and you don't really understand what's going on the outside. It's not even having 360 vision.
Yeah.
Not everybody's. That's why that pyramid scheme is so true. There's only a few at the top,
Totally.
and the rest are sliding down. It's difficult to be and stay at the top. Maintain the top is tough, period. That's why, yes, reinventing yourself, sure, I get it. But don't forget, you're also now a one-man operation. You handle from inception to delivery and beyond.
I didn't really know the music business. I wasn't clear on what publishing is or this or that, right? So, all the sharks had their bite, right? And all create, and then they had their feast, and then I was left to rot, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to learn every aspect of this business, from graphic design to photography to mastering to what every piece of equipment does, to everything, to music theory, to marketing. And so like it's been 25 years and I've like since that time, and I've learned all that crap. Yeah. Now that I've learned it all though, now I can delegate. I'm that kind of a control freak who needs to know, and I'm learning to delegate now though. I'm like, I don't like that sound. I don't want that sound. I like this sound. I like it to be, if you hear the sound of like my label, it has a sound, like it's a little bit more bass heavy, and the kicks are like pumpy. The tops aren't too like saturated. It's kind of silky and smooth. I like wanted to like have my own sound and have my own hardware chain and mastering technique. And so everything I sign, like I'm running it through there to create like that sound. So sometimes it's like, if a sound doesn't exist, or if your sound doesn't fit in, then just make more of your sound and bring more people onto your sound, so that now that's its own lane. You know what I mean? So that's one of the reasons why I have my label. I wanted to like, there's a certain sound that I want, Yeah. Parallel compression, eh? Exactly, yeah.
And the French had side chain compression.
Exactly.
Everything sounded like, everything had that air sound like that off the kick. That wasn't, if you're not used to making records like that, it's a little strange, and the Europeans, they found their way, and you guys have your sound. So, look, if you want to be part of Space Disco, learn what this man is telling you. He needs your tracks, because without your tracks, he doesn't want him to have to do every track. He loves
totally,
other people's tracks too.
Yeah.
But he wants,
and same with the Toolroom release. You know what? That one,
Disco sound.
They mastered it, and it's a little bit more, bright and like wide. Yeah, they like it a little crispy,
That's the English way. That's the English way. It's where they master them. And in New York, we used to have guys like Herb Pumpin' Powers that he knew how to master stuff where it was a little darker sounding, more street. People in the UK love that sound. It's crazy. The same like we listen to the UK.
Yeah, I remember this guy Nils from The Exchange in the UK, who was the mastering engineer. That he was like the guy, and he did like a bunch of the Daft Punk stuff. And I admired it so much, the sound he achieved, and I was like fascinated, and I had to figure it out. And then the poor guy, like rest in peace, apparently. If you're familiar with him, the guy Nils, really? Man, you're such an OG. It's like I tell you anything, you're like, we had coffee yesterday.
Oh, I know exactly. I've sat through mastery sessions with him at The Exchange.
Yeah. So exactly.
No, because I remember
Exactly.
signing a record and saying I want to be at the mastering session. So I wound up being at the mastering session, and it was happened to be him. And I remember we were laughing about it. He would tell me things like, "Well, I'm doing. What are you doing?" And he actually had a desk, and he had some really cool outboard gear and stuff that he was using, a lot of tube stuff. That's what gave it that sound, that airy sound. And he used a EQ, proper EQ to to brighten up with that
Mm-hmm.
air sound. Back then, the only way to find that air sound, the way that over
Hmm.
16,000, which you can't really hear, it was this one
Hmm.
EQ from NTI had it, NTI EQ, to blue and black, and it had the air. And they would just put a little air on it, and you get that semblance brightness in the top end. So then what happens is you're in a session like that, and now you're mixing records. You're going, I want to get the mix to be better. So it's like the Gazada Gazinta, what goes in must come out. Well, now I'm seeing what he's doing. I'm going, wow, that's super, super cool. Or embellishing the mixes off, say, an SSL console that we mixed. It was great. Everything was for the pickings. Like, I had people ripping my records apart and learning what they would. I mean, I heard that years later, yo, we listened to what you did on this record and we had to figure it out. I was just laughing. I'm saying to myself, that record I mixed on a Tax Scorpion. AMEC console.
Yeah.
We weren't even mixing. I didn't have no budgets for that stuff back then. I had my own stuff, my own studio. That came later. We were just happy to be doing stuff. And then getting heard Tony Humphries playing it on the radio, it was like, whoa, Tony Humphries playing my record on the radio. Little stuff like that was usually, and then going to hear it in nightclubs, like, because it wasn't only me playing it. Now it was other guys playing it and them champions. So I understand everything you're saying. And that feeling of, it was like someone gave you another trophy. Here you go. You made it to this mark now. Now I got to go to the next mark. It's like each piece, one after another. I got that one, put that on my shoulder.
You know what? It was the best thing that happened to me, though, because
I'm getting there.
that's
I'm sorry to hear you got
yeah,
sick.
but
That
it was
sucked.
such a good thing. I was really happy, and anything, whether it's negative or positive, you gotta part of the voyage, right? And it really was good because I learned so much, and it was a forced reset. You know what I mean? So it was after that I came out of the whole thing that I was like, yeah, I learned all this. I saw everyone take a bite. I saw the whole thing. Now I'm making my own label, and I called it Blow Media, and the front would say Blow Me, and the back Dia, and it was like hey, screw you, everyone. This is, it was kind of like a chip on the shoulder of like, I'm doing it my way. I'm not listening to anyone. I don't care. I'm independent, and I don't need anyone to hex me with their, you know what I mean? So that label, it did well too. I did that label in 03 to 08, and I was pressing vinyl and everything. And that's where I learned. That was my first record label, right? So did parties with that whole brand, and then
Right, and you had to figure out branding exercise and the whole way of making your stuff be seen and the money you had to put in. Not like now. It's a lot easier now to do stuff.
For sure,
Except
deliberately,
one
yeah.
difference is
Although now the new threat
what
is
the corporate
AI,
side,
because
which sometimes stunts us.
someone can just create a whole persona and so we're entering a whole other weird realm of what the hell is going to be with the next 20 years, man. Probably be robots in 20 years taking our jobs. Who knows? Crazy. But you know what? You got to evolve, you got to adapt, got to stay strong, and got to keep moving. That's it. What are you going to do, right?
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
Keep moving on, baby. Keep moving on.
Be meticulous, though, and think like an athlete, because these professional athletes put everything into it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who are wannabes, and a lot of people who talk less, do more. And if it sucks, get better, keep going. Don't be discouraged. Sorry? Exactly.
Heard that, children?
You know what? I could say, just as a final, my dad was the wisest guy, right?
Speak.
He told me this one thing, which was, he always has these little sayings. And the one was like, son, you're trying to make a music career there. You're trying to make a little empire there. You're going to go on the beach. You build it quick. You make a sand castle. The next tide tomorrow is going to wash it away. You want to do it? Drag each piece of marble from the quarry and build a pyramid, and take your time and build it 30 years, and then it's there for eternity. No one will wash away what you made. So do it right, do it slow, and put in the work. That's it, Don't build a sandcastle, build a pyramid.
And that, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, is why Mr. Harris
We're pulling,
is here
pieces of...
plus years. Thanks everyone for tuning in to True House Stories. George Hatiras, congratulations on your journey.
Thank you, and thanks for doing what you
Watching
do.
you,
I've now really
supporting
enjoyed
you,
watching it.
playing
I'm
your
going to
stuff.
watch some more. You know, I appreciate
Have a
everything
friend
you've
out
done
there.
and what you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, everyone, catch us again. Same place, same time, same bat channel.